Hi, I'm Becca.
Hi, I'm Emma.
And this is
Life in Quarters.
Emma and I are both moving out of our current apartments in August.
Yeah.
And this was a difficult decision to come to for both of us. You know, I'm saying this like we live together. I'm like, me and Emma, we're moving out. No, she lives somewhere and I live somewhere with my husband. And we're both individually, we decided to get new places.
I was also thinking that it sounded like you were leading up to us moving in together. And I was like, sorry for the bait and switch, y'all. We're not moving in
I was like,
together.
well, that doesn't sound like I wanted it to sound like. But we both came to the conclusion to move out of where we currently are on our own separate like timelines and thought processes. And it's been such a long time since we've had a truly parallel yet overlapping experience like the one that we're experiencing with the decision to move out and, you know, get a new place or get a different place. And we were struggling with thinking about what to talk about for this episode because we were like, oh, we haven't really been having chats about like random things lately because all we're talking about is moving and getting a new apartment or buying a house or whatever, finding a new place. And we weren't really having conversations. We were just kind of being sounding boards for one another. Like Emma would call me and be like, look at these places I found. Do you think this is a good decision? Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Let's go over a budget. And I'd tell her and I'd be like, I just toured this place and we think it's really good, but I think it's off the market. Blah, 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 blah. And like we weren't listening to each other. We were just like having our own ups and downs and inner turmoil related to whether or not we wanted to stay where we are or move out. And eventually we both came to the conclusion that yes, moving out is ultimately what we want, but it was hard and difficult and scary, but also exciting. And so we're kind of going to unpack that today. We're going to talk about the decision to move on from something that is good in order to go for something that you want. That's maybe equally as good as your current option, but like it's not really what you want.
No, I think that makes it really
that's
scary.
a really hard struggle.
Yeah.
It is. It's a really hard decision to choose between two good options. And that's what we were struggling with when deciding whether or not we wanted to move out from where we currently are.
And we've been really, really stewing on it for a while. Like hearing you talk about the conversations, I can envision our eyes glazing when the other person would start talking and just imagining our own situation. We've been stressed. Honestly, so deeply hyperfixated and so stressed that even when we were talking about the moving of it all, it just went right over our heads. Because I've really been racking my brain being like, what could we talk about? What could we talk about? And then I realized we've been talking about it this whole time. So without further ado, our 4 quarters for today are quarter 1, the want, the dream, the reasons why. This is basically the reason why we wanted to move out, like what planted that seed and what got us going, and then also what our immediate dream home was, what those non-negotiables were. Our second quarter is the counter argument. This is when we have to analyze. We have to think, is this actually viable? We spent a lot of time in this quarter, just figuring out, is this impulsive or too timid, worth the risk, all of that. And then quarter 3 is the trials and the tribulations of making your decision. So ultimately, at a certain point, you have to make that decision, and then the hunt begins. And there's going to be heartbreaks, there's going to be wins, there's going to be compromises, and we're going to be evaluating all of those. And then quarter 4 is getting excited, because ultimately, whether you have found the place you want to live yet or you're still looking for it, you've already made this really big decision and you're already doing something to be proud of. And so we just kind of want to reflect on the journey and like what little habits we've built through our lives that led us up to feeling confident in this moment and sitting in this decision and just like letting imposter syndrome go for a second.
Without further ado, let's head into quarter 1, the want, the dream, the reason why. Emma, why do you want a new place? And what are you looking to get out of this new place that you want to move into?
I'm so happy you started with me because I've got such a funny reason why. I've got such a funny planting of the seed for why I want this apartment. So back in February 2024, the seed was planted. And of course, I'm living in this amazing apartment with 2 of my best friends and their little baby. And so like I do genuinely love where I'm living now. And I hadn't seriously considered living on my own, like alone before, ever. But I knew I wanted to get a piece of art for my room for my birthday. So I was looking at this artist that I know I like, and I came across this painting, and it's gorgeous, and I'm gonna get it. It says, "Olives are romantic." And I looked at it and I went, this is exactly my style. I love it. The only place this could go is in a kitchen. And it would have to be my kitchen. And that literally, like that moment, my brain was like, I need my own kitchen to buy this piece of artwork. And so truly from then it has bloomed into this whole hunt and realizing, oh, I want more than just that. I want my own space. I want to be able to more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Fully customize?
No, when you do something with authority, like I want to be able to choose when I hang out with people.
More autonomy?
No.
More,
I know, I don't know the word.
I feel like the lack of big word accuracy on Love Island has really impacted my ability to critically think, not gonna lie.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. I take it back. But basically, that's where it bloomed because I hadn't really thought about wanting to move out before that. I lived with my family first, and that's a family of 6. And then I lived in my house of artists, and that was a house of 6. And now I live in a house of 4. And so living alone is going to be a really big change. But I don't know. I journaled on it. And the more I was journaling last year and this year, I realized I wanted that space. I wanted to be more intentional with when I hung out with people, when I was being social, and when I have roommates, I love talking to people, so I just kind of get sucked into it really quick, and I like can't make that decision as firmly. And so yeah, when I thought about it this year, I realized it was time to go and like take up more space in that way. And now you want to know what I'm looking for, right?
Yes. What are you hunting for? When you started going, you know what, I want my own space, what was your perfect situation?
It started with a 1-bedroom. I mean, not a 1-bedroom, a studio. My honestly dream studio with a balcony, parking, AC, on-site washer dryer. I mean, I'd love a fitness center, but that's asking a lot. Yeah, I need good light. That's my big thing. A really well lit studio apartment with a balcony, no less than 400 square feet, parking, just space for all of my stuff. I'm not super high maintenance. I need a pretty kitchen. I don't want my mattress to be looking at the stove. If that's possible, I'd like it to be a little alcove. And I don't need a ton of closet space. I know people really like closet space, but I'm not a super big closet space girl. I want a big floor plan. So, yes. Final answer. Under $1,500, 450 square foot, studio apartment, separated bathroom, slightly alcoved kitchen, parking, air conditioning, Wi-Fi. I don't want to look at the stove when I wake up. Well lit.
Perfect. Yes. Absolutely essential for both of us.
Yes. That's her. That is my dream apartment upon
I like
the
it. That
conception.
sounds perfectly reasonable to me.
Yeah. I would agree.
LA. In the LA area though, which is a factor.
It's definitely a factor, but there are definitely like that in that price range you can find something in that kind of way. And I knew it was possible, and I was like talking to one of the moms I nanny for a lot about it, where I was like, I really want to find a studio for under $1,500, and she kind of scoffed. And I was like, no, they exist. They're real, I promise. And so as I was looking, and then I also want it to be in, it doesn't have to be the nicest area ever. I've lived in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, like I've lived in Hollywood. There's a certain level of like constant.
You're pretty realistic.
There's a certain level of constant grime in Los Angeles, but there's grime where I feel unsafe and there's grime where I don't feel unsafe. You know, so I want trees. Oh, that's a really big one. I almost forgot. The outside has to have trees, and it has to have trees I can touch. I want to be able to go around. I want to walk in and see a bunch of like greenery and living things and feel like there's a little bit of a community. So yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect on the outside, but there does have to be a level of upkeep and care that you can feel from just looking at it.
And I think it's funny when you bring up the way that that person reacted to your goal of like under 1,500, because every time you pitch a budget for something, I'm like, that's way too little. I'm like, that's not gonna go for it. And then you make it work, and then you find it, and I'm like, if anyone can do it, it's Emma.
I'm gonna do a humble brag right now. I've lived in Los Angeles for over a decade, and I've never paid more than $750 for rent.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that. I paid more in Arizona. Like,
I got a knack. I got a knack for finding the good little spots. But what about you? So when did it start, and what is our dream?
Similarly, kind of ridiculous for the intro to this one, is I wanted to get a boogie board because my husband and I have been going to the beach once every week, like either a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, we go to the beach and we lay on there in our like little beach chairs. And I saw some people out there with their boogie boards and I went, you know what? I want a boogie board. And my husband looked at me and he goes, where are we going to put that? And I was like,
that's tough.
I don't know, man. It can live in the car because that's where our beach chairs live. We don't have a spot for that in our apartment. The closet we keep our beach chairs is the trunk of the car. We just have nowhere else to put it. Even our guest little mattress topper, we shove that on the side of our little laundry alcove. It's not meant to go there. It's not meant to fit there. We just shove it there because there's literally nowhere else for it to go. It's insane. This apartment we're in has 0 storage.
Yeah.
We have one little outside closet. We have a walk-in closet, which you were like, I don't need a big closet. And I'm like, I need a big closet. That's part of my little wants.
That's a valid want for sure.
And we've been touring houses, and houses have always been on our mind. My husband, he is from England. So when he thinks of buying a home, it looks a lot different than the situation in California. And I'm a little bit pessimistic about the housing market. So I always told him, like, we're never going to get a house. We're never going to get a house. But ultimately, I was like, but if we got a house, what would we want it to be? Like, what could we purchase that we could maybe afford and had enough space? Like, I knew I didn't want a 2-bed. I was like, a 2-bed's not even worth it to me. I know we'll outgrow that so quickly. It's not even funny.
As a house, especially.
So when we envisioned, like, okay, what do we want that would be worth it to us? I said 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. We want it to be multiple stories. We want a garage, a 2-car garage. Not a 1-car garage, a 2-car garage. We want a balcony and or a backyard. Honestly, I want some kind of backyard, even if it's teeny weeny.
Yeah.
We don't need a balcony. Like, if I had to choose between the two, I would prefer the backyard. Just because we have a dog. She's little, but she loves some kind of outdoor space. Like, even in our 1-bed, she likes the balcony and she likes that it's see-through. That's the thing, too. If it's only a balcony and no type of backyard, my girl needs to be able to see something because she likes to just hang out there and watch. I got to give her something, you know? Plus, we might want a second dog so she can have a playmate. And I don't want it to feel like I'm being a mean owner by not having any space for them. So that's my priority. I also want it to be move-in ready. We don't have the kind of cash flow that will allow for buying a fixer-upper that you can pour $150,000 into redoing. And then, you know, we could live with my mom for those 3 months and then manage contract. Like, it's just so much that goes into it. So we want it to be move-in ready. And we want there to be reasonable guest parking options.
Ooh, good one. That's a good one.
And then I think there's one more thing that I'm forgetting. Mostly I just want it to be nice. Like, I live in a luxury apartment right now. So I have a certain standard of living that I kind of expect, which can be perceived as unreasonable and not strategic, but that's the dream, folks. Move-in ready, nice, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2-car garage, backyard and or balcony. Nice.
And this is the want. This is the time to dream. This is not the time.
This is the want, the dream. And similar to you, we want to be able to take Lucy outside, have easy access to some grass, have a good space to do our evening walk in. I do want like some type of a neighborhood feel. I know some places are like right on the street. I want a community feel, just like you.
Yes, I think that's absolutely fair.
And the budget, $6,500 a month or under for like mortgage, HOA, insurance, property tax, everything under the sun.
I think that's valid.
$6,500 or lower.
Yes, I think that is completely valid. And I think this moves us into our second quarter because, I mean, we just had to set it up, but now I'm immediately wanting to start picking it apart and analyzing because quarter 2 is the counter argument. Because
we both have really good situations we're currently in.
Yes, and I was also going to say we both have good safety nets because not everyone's going to be able to be in this decision, and wherever you are, whatever place you're in, hopefully you get to move into whatever space you want to. But like my parents are here. I know I could always move back in with them. It's not like my friends who lived out of state before they moved to acting college and would have to move out of Los Angeles if they couldn't afford it or something like that. I know I can take a bigger risk with that when asking if this is actually viable, you know, because it's scary. So that's when I started asking, is this actually viable? That's actually, if you go and listen to the side note where we're talking about crew and I'm making my budget, I think it's called Emma Joins the Crew. I'm making my budget because I wanted to see if I could viably move out. And that I think is really, really an important first step before you do anything that's going to cost you more money, because it would be doubling my rent right now. And I was like, I've got the money to do it, and it is something I want to do, but financially, like if my goal was to save as much money as possible right now, this would not be the move. Like, am I being impulsive? I don't think there was any point when I thought I was being impulsive. I know I get really worried that I'm going to be too timid, because like I really, really think these things through. But when I'm posed with like good versus what I want, I'm like, why wouldn't I just stay with the good thing? Like if I was to put the pros and cons on this list and really look them over, it'd be a really, really, really tight race. And the fact that it is double the amount of money, that is contesting with just the fact that like I want to do this and this is an exciting opportunity for me. But that was just like a really, really scary thing to think about. And I've been thinking about it for a long, long, long time.
The moment we started working through your budget, which shout out Crew Finance, I've been using it for, I don't know, almost a year now, maybe. It feels like it hasn't been that long, but I feel like it has been longer. Emma recently joined, like she said. Listen to this short side note. Emma joins the crew. And if you want to try Crew Finance, which, oh, man,
You
gosh, I adore it. Use our code and or link. Our code is Life in Quarters. It is a high yield spending account. The APY right now is 2.95%. If you use our code, then you get a boost of 0.5% for 3 months, which is really competitive and even better than a lot of high yield savings accounts.
Yeah.
So just check that out. Shameless plug. Yeah. And so now I want to focus on Emma again. When we were talking about budget, that's when I knew like, oh, we're getting serious now. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. I was so thrilled. I was like, first thing we got to knock out is logistics, because then we were talking about, okay, what's your income for the month? How much is this going to cost? How much do you spend on being alive? Because we always factor in bills, but then we think, how much is left over for us to actually live on?
Yeah.
And with this new expense, is it possible? Is it viable? And then we talked about, okay, well, if you strike out on your own, you get your own place. Are you going to be able to save up an emergency fund and, you know, get ahead on for a month on all these bills and things? Like, we were really getting into it. And I think that knowing financially you would be able to do it, I think that's the first step to any big change or any leap of faith, to even just not be like, okay, I'll be set in every scenario possible, because it's not always viable to do that. But to be like, you know what, I am starting off on the right foot.
Yes.
I will be able to have my own back for at least a month. Okay. All right. Is that enough to bring us comfort? So just getting a true understanding of where you're at financially can bring so much clarity to a situation and really help you understand the trade-off that's being made.
I think that budgeting moment was actually the moment I really did lock in on wanting the apartment, because I think that day was a shift of wanting it to realizing I didn't have very much transparency on my money itself, and realizing that if I actually did want to do this, I needed to know how to spend the money. Because it's something you've said to me before where, and I'm going to butcher the saying as I always do with money sayings, but if you don't know how to spend your money now, you're not going to know how to spend your money when you have more, or something to that effect.
Yeah, kind of like, that's basically it. Yeah.
Okay, slay. So I realized that with spending money too, is that I wasn't going to have, if I wasn't paying attention to what I was spending and I was having just enough to pay my bills right now, but I allegedly had enough to pay double the amount on rent, then I wasn't paying enough money. I wasn't being financially savvy. I wasn't being on top of it. And I really had that moment with myself where I realized and made a deal that if I was going to actually pursue a new apartment, I had to become financially literate in a lot of ways, where just learning how to handle my money in a way I've never handled my money before. And I'm being really gentle with myself, but that was definitely the biggest factor, and continues to be the biggest factor in whether or not I feel like it's worth the risk to get the apartment at this point.
Me too. I feel like once I understood how my budget stacked up against what I wanted, I felt in a better place to understand the trade-off that I was making, like I mentioned earlier. And for me, I lack transparency for my side business income. I always look at that because, like, I know exactly what I'm getting from my 9 to 5 because I have my 9 to 5 regular office job, salaried. I know what every paycheck's going to say, but then I also have my content creation stuff, which is so unpredictable that I never like to really expect anything from it. And so every time I look at my P&L for my tax person, I'm like, really? I made that much? How much did I put taxes? How much was this? How much did I spend on business expenses? I'm like, where's all this money going? Yeah. And, you know, I am like, I would say way more consistent with it than I thought. I think that whenever I put down like, okay, well, how much can you expect to make from content? I'm always like $2,000 a month. I feel like that's a really safe amount that I can expect. And it is more than that. It is solidly more than that at this point, but it's almost like I was scared to look at it in the face because I didn't want it to like run away or immediately stop because I was acknowledging it for being there. And so once I was filling out some of the like paperwork necessary to see if you're even eligible to qualify for a loan of any kind, I had to look at those numbers. I had to attach those documents. I had to be like, no, this is my financial situation and I could actually achieve this thing that I have deemed impossible for so long. I was like, maybe it is feasible. And when looking at the counter argument of, okay, well, we have this, you know, truly beautiful luxury single bedroom apartment that costs $2,870 a month before all the fees are stacked on. Once all the fees are on, it's more like $3,070.
Wow.
But that compared to $6,500 for a mortgage and mortgage insurance and taxes and home insurance, like all these other things, like that is nearly a 50% difference. I am doubling my monthly expenses. $3,000 to $6,500. That's insane. That's a major leap. That's going to take a major hit on savings. And I was like, wow, do I want a house this badly? Do I want to move out of my single bedroom? And we did find a multiple bedroom apartment that is so similar to a 3-bedroom house that I was like, hey, maybe we just rent this place instead. And we were thinking about like buying a house versus investing the money that we would save by not buying a house, and what's the appreciation on that, and what's this look like, and all these things, and home equity, and like a bunch of advanced financial stuff that I've like been aware of, but I haven't really unpacked that deeply. I was like now having to answer those questions and be like, is it worth it to not rent anymore? Is it worth it to buy a house? And the thing that irritated me the most was whenever I was having this debate, the people who were for a house were like, oh, always, that way you're not lighting your money on fire, that way you're not throwing it out the window. And I was like, $3,000 is not nothing. $3,000 every single month in investments can really have a strong return. Plus, you don't have to pay for maintenance of your stocks. You don't have to pay for if the AC breaks of your stocks. Like, there's so many elements not involved in investing that you take on when you buy a home. I was like, this is an arguable downside because of all the labor that goes into maintaining a house. Like, in California, looking at it right now, there's a strong argument against buying a house. You listen to a bunch of financial podcasts. You know, we got Caleb Hammer. We got so many people who are like, renting is the American dream now. Wrong. Renting is the American necessity now because the housing market is so convoluted that it is somehow a arguable bad investment. Like, that's crazy sauce. And so I was in my head thinking, I could rent and then pocket $3,000 more, or I could buy and then, you know, every month I'm responsible for $6,500 to not be evicted, you know, to not lose our home, to not ruin my credit. Like, there's so much more on the line when you buy a house, and an apartment is the safe thing to do. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And like you, I have a strong safety net in California. I know that, like, if, I only had $3,000 somehow to cover my monthly housing expenses, I could reach out to one of my parents and be like, can I have this money? They wouldn't even ask for it back, is the thing. Like, they would spot
so
me
sweet.
and it would be fine. And, like, that's a worst case scenario option. Just like, I could sell stocks to make up the difference. I could do this, I could do that. I don't want to have to do any of that. I don't want to have to do anything that's like, and I'm in a dire situation. Yeah. But I have options. It's not the end of the world. And I thought to myself, okay, well, here's the thing. I won't put my husband on the loan. I won't put him on the house. He just moved to this country. He doesn't have a lot of history. He doesn't have like a qualifying income for this yet. Like, they want you to have 4 years of job history. They want you to have so much in your back pocket when it comes to this. And I was like, that way, if the loan goes under, if we lose the house, if everything goes wrong, then only my credit is ruined at least. So if we ever want to go back into it,
you'll
get
have
up,
someone's
sausage,
credit.
like he's doing that. And so, yeah, I like, it was so much inner turmoil because moving out, getting a new place, buying a house is a huge risk for something that we want. But yeah, that was my whole thought process.
Yeah, I actually, as you were talking, forgot about some of mine as well, is that I'd be living alone for the first time ever. That's what I was thinking about, is that it's such a change of scenery. It's such a change of like environment in general, is that I'm going to be all by myself. And that's really scary to me. And I also love getting to live with people that I love. It's so unknown. The longest amount of time I've ever been on my own truly is 8 days in my entire almost 30 years of being a human being. And so it's really, there's no way to know if I'm going to like it or not. I feel like I'm going to like it, but I was sad. I really worked the pros and cons with my mom and just cried because like I do love the people that I live with so much. And then of course there's a little baby that I get to live with, and she's only 2 and she's not even going to remember living with me. And so that I want to move out sooner so that it doesn't actually have an emotional impact on her, because ultimately I know right now she's more elastic. And so it's the decision I feel more confident making as for like her emotional state. But like I'm so like gutted to not be able to live with her and to not be able to live with 2 people that I've really lived with for about 10 years now. Like it's really the end of an era in so many ways. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there were any other cons.
That is terrifying.
I know.
It's such a big change. And you don't even have a pet to bring with you. Mm-hmm. And like, I know when I got my first apartment living alone, a beautiful single bedroom in Phoenix, Arizona, in the Cave Creek area. It was so gorgeous, you guys. I love that apartment. But I was scared because, like you, I was paranoid that someone was just going to be in my space and I wouldn't know. And you don't have anyone to run to and be like, did you hear that? Like, it's you, yourself, and you. And, of course, they have alarm systems. You put, like, sensors on the doors. And the one that I used in my apartment was called Simply Safe. This isn't an ad. But the one that I used was called Simply Safe. They have so many other brands now. So luckily, there are things that can like bring you comfort so that definitively, like, no, I'm the only one in here. But I even went as far as to take the legs off of my bed because I was paranoid that someone was going to be hiding underneath it. Yeah. Like I hated it. So, but I mean, I learned from it. So I 100% can like, it's daunting. It's daunting moving into your own place for the first time.
And on that note, too, one of the leading factors that led me to making the decision was that I realized that I would be the first person in my family to ever get to live alone, ever. And I was like, I can't pass up that opportunity. And also, maybe there's going to be a time when I don't want to live alone. I'm not seeking any sort of roommate or partner or pet right now, but I'm sure there will be a time when I want one of those 3 things, when I want to live with a family member again, or if I'm in a relationship, or if I want a cat. But what an experience that I wouldn't get to have otherwise. And so many people don't get to have. I just had that realization and thought it was too valuable to pass that up. And because I've been feeling stronger about just taking decisive action and being okay with the consequences. That's been a big thing that I've been working on recently that helps me butt up against the counter argument in a lot of ways, is that if the cons were more money, farther away from my friends, being scared of moving out, a whole bunch of change, which I don't typically like. The pros were that I really wanted to do it, that I thought it was going to be really good for me, that it was going to be an opportunity that I may never get the chance to do again, that's going to be really amazing. And what was so scary about that is that all of those were subjective. And like really, like if you poured water into them, they were a colander. They were just going to pour right on out. But the only concrete one is that I would have more space. Because ultimately, when you're living with a kid, the bigger they get, the less space you have. But it was really scary. But the ultimate deciding factor against that really wonky pros and cons list was that I was okay accepting the consequences of this decision if it didn't pan out correctly. And that's a very, very rare feeling for me. And I think between the budgeting moment and that moment, I realized that this was really, really what I wanted to do. And it like put the wind beneath my wings and the wind in my sails. And I felt confident doing it. So similarly, like what were your moments where you felt that kind of kick in?
Well, for me, I think one of my major motivators for wanting more space is that I want kids in, how old am I? I'm 29, almost 30. I want kids in like the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And I never imagined myself like having kids in an apartment. I was like, I want a house. I want more space. If I have kids, like I want it to be how I imagine having kids. And like, this is going to be a ridiculous thing I'm about to say, okay?
Okay.
I can imagine getting roasted for it.
Okay.
But like when I was a child, I thought that if you had kids, you had a house. Like I thought all kids lived in houses. Because I don't know, my best friend at the time, she lived like a house away from me. I was like, I don't know, I just assumed everyone lived in houses because we lived in a community where all the kids we knew lived in houses in that little neighborhood, and we all went to the same elementary school. And it wasn't until maybe I hit middle school that I realized I don't think all kids live in a house. And so like I always imagined when I had kids I would have a house, and it was really crushing to me to think like maybe I can't even afford to have a house in this day and age. Like maybe that's just like no longer a feasible thing. Maybe I would have to live in a different state or a different country to raise my children in a home. And having this like kind of ticking clock in the back of my mind and thinking, well, if I have kids, like I want to, be settled in the house. I don't want to have just moved into the house. Like all this criteria, all this to-dos that I laid out in my own make-believe world. And I think that kind of motivated me to look into whether we could do it. I was like, here's the thing. I think I might need to be forced to grow. And whether that's growing in a way that goes, hey, the dream's changed. We're having a kid in an apartment if that's what it is, okay? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Adjust and move on. Or going, no, we can afford a house. It's just maybe not going to be exactly what you envisioned, or it's not going to be exactly in the price point you thought it was, but let's see if we can make this reality. And I kind of went into it thinking, okay, well, in 2 years, we'll save up enough to have a down payment sizable enough to bring a house down to a price that we can actually afford. And, I was doing all this like mental math. So at the same time, I'm having all these thoughts about all the compromises I might be willing to make. I'm scrolling on Redfin, looking at homes in the area, and this leads us perfectly into quarter 3, which is trials and tribulations of making your choice, because this is how my choice was made, actively looking.
That's fun.
There was a place that popped up, and my husband, he actually sent it to me because I think at this point I was kind of like, we'll never be able to afford a house. I hate my life. Like I was so devastated by reality that he sent me a place. He goes, what do you think about touring this? And of course, at this point, we've only ever toured new builds because that's what you can go in and, self-tour, and it's very easy to set up. You don't have to talk to a lot of people. And so I reach out to my mom, who's a realtor, and I say, hey, Mom, can you get us into this place to look at it? She goes, yeah, let me reach out to the realtor. And I was like, perfect. So she comes down, we meet her there. I'm in a bad mood. I'm motion sick from the car ride over. We've only looked at garbage thus far. Like, my expectations couldn't be lower. We arrive. It looks like a quaint little neighborhood. I'm like, wait a minute. This is not suburbia, but has vibes. I feel like I could take a nice little stroll around here. These are condos, but they feel like little houses. Like, where have I stepped into? Walking around, this house has like a mini little courtyard area. And I was like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? We go in, we look around, it's flipped. So like a company bought it, they flipped it, and now they're selling it for a higher price than they bought it for. And I'll tell you what, they did a great job. Looks beautiful. All new appliances, new wiring. They did stylistic choices. So like the bathrooms aren't just like minimalist, or what is it called? Millennial gray and whites and creams. They did like tile with a little zhuzh, some like turquoise colored things. I don't know, but it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I'm loving it. My husband's loving it. I'm like thinking we could put this here and we can do this here. And they had a backyard. I was like, this is the dream. How much is it? It was $775,000. I look at my husband, who jokingly, we toured like a $1.6 million house, and he was like, we could make this work. Okay, we obviously couldn't make a $12,000 mortgage work, but $775,000. You know what? Let me look. Let me speak to a lender. Let me crunch the numbers. So I spoke to a lender. He was like, oh, okay, based off of your situation, which, for reference, I'm a personal finance content creator, so I'm going to overshare a bit. But like my income was good enough, but I think what really put us over the edge into getting a pretty solid rate, which right now is about like 6.49% for mortgage rates. We're at an all-time low after 7 weeks. For the past 7 weeks, we're at an all-time low, which is not saying a lot because we did have a spike up in the interest for mortgage loans. Fun fact. But it's because I don't have any debt, and I have a really good credit score. So the FHA loan, first time home buyer loan, is actually not good for us. Like doing the classic route, not having an FHA works better for us. So I learned so much in like a day of me just calling random lenders, or them calling me, I suppose. And I was like, wait a minute, this is for real feasible. Like now it's real. Now I've spoken to someone. Now they've sent me a pre-approval letter. It hasn't been underwritten, which is important if you're buying a house. Okay? Don't make an offer with a little pre-approval letter. Get it underwritten before you make the offer. It'll make them take you more seriously. I'm just
why though?
peppering stuff in.
No, I love that. Why though?
Because if you get pre-approved, that's not really saying anything. Like you haven't secured the loan yet.
I see.
When you get underwritten, that means like your offer's legit. They've done their deep dive. They have actually solidified the approval for that loan. And you can apply for as many loans. It's called like a shopping period. So if you apply to like 7 different lenders, they all do a hard credit check on you. Your credit will only take one hit because they count all of these credit checks as the same one, because they know you're shopping around. It's called like a shopping period. I think it's 45 days. I looked it up on the internet, so fact check me and put it in the comments and yell at me if I'm wrong. Because I'll tell you what, I've had my credit run a bunch of times in the last week. A bunch. And it's still at a 789, so I guess the initial hit, I think it'll get hit by like 5 points or something.
I'm going to say, Emma. No, I was just excited for you because I was going to say, I'm going to say what my lady said to me when I got my car loan to you. I'm going to say, look at you, credit score. Oh my God.
Look at you, credit score.
Look at you.
But yeah, so like within the last week, we've really done a hyperdrive because I just don't think we were really aware that feasibly we could find something that was relatively good enough. And I know I'm monologuing at this point. I'm monopolizing the conversation.
I literally
for myself.
asked you a question. I'm so interested in this, and I know our listeners are too. Yes, this is slay.
Well, you know how I put in all this effort to fund what we have now defined as like our dream home, even though there were a little bit of issues with it. Like there were no drawers for the kitchen. There's no like pull out drawer. It's all cabinetry. So like where the heck are you going to put your cutlery stuff? And also we didn't know where we would put the TV.
There were no pull out drawers
in the living room. There were no
where are you going to put your coats? Wait, what?
Exactly.
Wait, what do you mean?
Exactly.
There were no drawers in the kitchen or
no
in the whole place?
No, in the kitchen specifically.
There were no drawers.
Actually, I can't recall a single drawer. Maybe the bathroom had a drawer, but I don't recall at this point.
I guess you could do a silverware tray that you like put in a cabinet or
that's
left
what
on
we
the
were
counter.
we were trying to workshop that, but ultimately we decided we'd just replace something. We'd like figure it out, right?
You'd make a drawer. It'd be your house.
We'll figure it out. Right, exactly.
You could
We'll do what we gotta
install a
do.
drawer. It's your house at that point.
Well, literally the day after we tour this place, I've called lenders. I've been doing all day, just like focused, hyper fixated on this. At the end of the day, I get a call from the final lender that I reach out to. I tell him the address of what we're looking at. He goes, "It says it's under contract."
No.
What? What? And he goes, am I being the bearer of bad news right now? And I went, "It's under contract." And he goes, "Yeah, looks like someone put in an offer." Way to ruin my day. So I'm crushed. My husband's crushed. And in real estate right now, they still tell you, like, don't get attached to anything until an offer's accepted because it moves so quickly. And I tell my mom, she tells me, like, don't worry, like, offers can fall through in the first couple of days. Like, you don't know the full story. And I hear this a couple of times, but of course, I'm like, what a waste of time. That was the only thing we saw that wasn't junk. Like, we're never going to buy a house. I was like super pissed off again. I couldn't believe it. But then I took a step back and I said, you know what? If anything, this has shown me that what I'm looking for in my price range exists.
Yeah.
So maybe we look at a few other places. Maybe we give a few other places a chance. So we toured a bunch of other places in the 2 days after this. And then yesterday, the house got put back on the market.
Ah, brilliant.
And in the 2 days that we were touring new places, my husband said he liked one of the new places that we toured better than that original one. So now we're still touring places. We're probably going to put an offer in on probably 4 or 5 places and see what sticks.
Because it moves
in the next
fast.
week or two. Because it moves so fast.
Yeah.
And if that place hadn't been taken off the market, we would have really thought that that was like the pinnacle of the best of what we could possibly achieve. And what we learned by looking at other places is that we actually have a lot of options. And I think that is so important to not get pigeonholed into what you think is your only choice, is your only thing, even though you just started looking. That's important. We had just started looking.
It's the desperation of that. It makes you very, very impulsive because I felt that a lot in my hunt as well. Mine has been really, really, really varied. I have been up and down and all around as far as apartments go because I have been hunting pretty nonstop and it's been really brutal because I've got that anxiety energy right now of like something always needs to be done. And between that and one of the projects I'm working on right now, unfortunately, that's true. And I don't know how to pump the brakes when it's true. Like I can stop it when it's not, but I've been really hyper fixated on these apartments for a long time. And there was one apartment. This was the first one I was really, really considering. It was a weird little unicorn. It was $1,200 for a 2-bedroom apartment. 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 700 square foot in North Hollywood. And I like North Hollywood. I'd love to live in like North Hollywood or Sherman Oaks. I like both of those places a lot. But it was low income, which is okay. I live in low income housing right now, so I know I qualify for that. But nowhere on it did it say that you need to be more than one person because it's a 2-bedroom. And I know there are really specific stipulations when it comes to renting an apartment, especially when it's listed that way, because that's how they get the subsidies. But I filled out 24 pages of paperwork 3 times. It was like 6 hours minimum, maybe 9 hours of my life, because every time I did it, it was like hours and hours of work and compiling my finances and figuring out what I did and did not need to put in those forms. And I always had a weird twist in my gut about it because I love manifesting. I love really like pushing for the thing I want, especially in this new era of taking decisive action. I was trying to tell the universe and be like, this is what I want to do. But even when I was saying that, I was like, but I'm also going to tell the universe that I want them to take me to my perfect, safe, lovely home. That's exactly the one I'm supposed to end up in. And in the back of my head, I was always like, and if it's not this one, that's okay. Because I do firmly believe that. I really think with apartments and houses, you're going to end up where you're supposed to end up and you cannot rush it. That's the really stressful part, is that that perfect spot is waiting for you. And like, if you hadn't been declined for that, like if that house hadn't gone under contract, you wouldn't have seen those other 2 places or even known that there were other options for you. And luckily, now in hindsight, finally, this guy responded after I had to reach out to him after the 2-week mark when he said he'd respond to me. So God knows how far back in the line I was at this point. And he was like, the county says you don't qualify because you're only one person and this is a 2-bedroom. And I'm like, God, I would have loved it if you'd said that before I did 9 hours of work, but it's cool. It's whatever. And I honestly felt relieved. That one wasn't a heartbreak for me. That was a that's not meant to be mine kind of moment. I really didn't. I was annoyed that I had to do 9 hours of work. I was like, I hate paperwork. You pissed me off, dude. But ultimately, that's good paperwork to have. It's good to have a file of those because I'm applying for more apartments. What was really hard is there was one that I thought I loved on Zillow. Hate to say it, a lot of false advertising on Zillow. I toured 6 apartments this week. And there was one I was really excited about that was supposed to be like $14.50 a month, but there was a rent deal, so it would have only been like $13.06 for the first year every single month because they had the 3rd month free. So I don't like that they advertise it like that necessarily, but for me, I worked it out that if I just saved that 3rd month of rent, then I could budget it out for myself because I have crew finance. Use our affiliate
there's
code.
a money guide. Yes, there's a money guide. I walk you through how to set it up the way that Emma and I both logicked it out. So if you need a step-by-step checklist, it's there. Yeah, shameless plug. That'll be in the show notes and also in our social media bios.
The code is life in quarters. You genuinely won't regret it. This is not. Like,
it's free.
This is
I
great.
forgot to mention that. That's important.
There's no
it's
downside.
Free.
Zero downside.
No minimums. You can make it a joint account, a family account.
But
Anyways,
back to it. I'm going to get lost. This place, I thought it was perfect, Becca. I was so sad. I was like, 1306 is perfect. Because that was another compromise I had to make. I started out with the budget of 1,500 or under. And then we budgeted. And both of us were like, oh, let's shoot for 1,200. But then my profits fluctuate so much that in the last 2 months even, I reevaluated the budget and 1,500 was totally viable. So I must have known somewhere in my brain that worked. But I had to go up from 1,200 because I just realized that I wasn't going to find the kind of place that I wanted. It was a lot of places don't have air conditioning, which is less surprising than the fact that a lot of places don't have kitchens. No kitchen sinks.
What is this, New York? What is happening?
What do? You wash your dishes in the kitchen? Like, but there's no garbage disposal. I genuinely don't. Like, you're going to clog your bathroom sink so fast. You got to do what you got to do ultimately in life. And the rent situation is no one's fault but the government. But how you got to have some sort of extra sink that's not your bathroom sink. I don't know what you do in that situation. So I was looking because the places that were 1,200 were teensy, 150 square foot, 200 square feet for your whole life kind of places. And they weren't in fantastic areas either. They were dangerous and it was street parking. And so it got me really clear on like what I was willing to compromise because I was pretty good about compromising things and seeing like what made my gut feel weird and what didn't. But this place was perfect. It was a studio with a balcony. It was 450 square foot. It was $13.06 a month. It was like an $800 security deposit. It had parking. It had AC. It had a kitchen. And then it looked really nice from the outside. I showed Becca too. She thought it looked nice from the outside too. And we thought the little things on Zillow, it looked really pretty. But then I was driving past that area on my way back from like a witchy market. And I was like, oh, I know that exit. I know that's the exit that would lead me to that apartment. Why don't I go look at it early? Because I was going to tour it on that Tuesday. And I looked at it. And it was gross and scary and awful. I got out of my car. You want to know what I saw on the floor? Next to the pile of shit, I saw a broken windshield. I kept walking. Oh. I saw trash all over the floor. I walked past a bridge. A man yelled at me from the bridge. Not a nice man saying nice things. And as I was driving, a car honked at me. And then I looked at the place and I was like, I don't feel remotely safe here. And I've got a pretty high like I said, I lived in Hollywood for like 5 years. I worked in Hollywood for 4 more. It was brutal. Brutal so much so that when we went to actually tour it, another person was like casing my friend's car. They were just standing outside the window of her car looking at all of the baby stuff inside. Very intentionally until we walked up. So icky. So icky. And I was heartbroken. I was ready to be done at that point. I had been jerked around by the $1,200 place for so long. Because that was like 2 weeks of work at that point. And then I was like, oh, I found it finally. And then I was worried that it was going to be perfect on the inside and just horrible on the outside, and that, I don't know, people were going to think I was being overly particular, but I think it's so important to live in a good location, and it doesn't really matter what other people think of where I'm living, but you know, that's something I'm working on as well. But I like just was deflated. It was like my whole body hollowed out that night. I was just laying in bed scrolling on things, trying to find new apartments, and I scheduled like 6 tours that night. And one of the tours was for a place that I really, really like. So similar to your situation where the thing got taken away and it led you to looking in the right spots. But good news, we went to tour that place that I will refer to as the Scuzzy place. And when we went inside, it was also falsely advertised on the inside. It was scuzzy on the inside. It was dark. There was no balcony. There were no studios with balconies at all. I said, is there no studio with a balcony? And she said, only the 1-bedrooms have balconies. And I was like, that's not what it said online, but that's cool. It's whatever. No guest parking. The AC was very old, and they didn't clean out the tub before I came and toured it. And there was 1 washing machine in the laundry area. So for anyone invested in that story, at least it wasn't scuzzy on the outside and pretty on the inside, because I think that would have been worse. But I did learn through my trials and tribulations that, like, I was willing to compromise on the balcony to get the location. I think that was the biggest shift for me, was being like, I can't. We've been spoiled. The place we grew up in as kids was really pretty. And the area by the house I lived in as an artist was really pretty. And the area I live right now has got a lot of wildlife and trees. And so I don't think I could live somewhere with the intent of staying. Because if I'm going to spend an extra $800 a month, I want to stay for at least a year or two. I don't think I could want to stay somewhere that's in an area that feels unsafe and unhappy. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing I realized.
I think what I learned in the trials and tribulations was that I was maybe not asking for enough. Like earlier you mentioned how you're not an impulsive person. You're more too timid than anything. I'm impulsive, especially with like big decisions like this, because I kind of just want to jump in before I have time to back out.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I commit to something that I'm like, maybe that wasn't good enough. Maybe I wasn't asking for enough. And like one of those things is when I bought my car. I bought a brand new Honda HR-V in 2023 because my car that I'd had since high school, was my first car ever, finally gave out, was not turning on anymore. And I mean, my Honda HR-V has served me well thus far. Not trying to jinx anything. She's been a trooper. She's been so strong, been able to accomplish all the things I want. But at the time, I was worried about my job that I had just started, even though I'd been there for a year at that point. Like, I just didn't trust myself enough to ask for more, to go for more. And at that point, I was still like, well, maybe there's a reality in which I do move to England sooner rather than later. And I was just like, I was really taking timid steps. And I think that maybe that was a big purchase we can live with, because we're still going to have this car probably for the next 3 years, probably up until we have kids, because I do see us getting a different car to have kids. Like this car, not for the kiddos, in my opinion, unless maybe they're like 7 or older. But like I can't imagine having a newborn and driving this vehicle everywhere. Not
Newborns
to be
are
prissy
easy
about it.
Newborns are easy.
I suppose. My parents, they were driving like it was a Ford Ranger when they had me, and it didn't even have working AC, and my mom had like a spray bottle fan that she would like hit me with because I'd cry because it was so hot. So like, listen, the standards are not technically that high. I have a certain vision in my mind. Okay, so that's what I'm aiming for.
That's fair.
But like in touring, Bailey and I, my husband, we've realized that we needed to ask for more so that we had things to reasonably compromise on. And one of those things, like you mentioned, was the parking situation.
Oh my God.
It was hard to find parking to tour some of these places. It was stressful. And I was like, I can't imagine coming home to this. Like, I understand that there's a garage, but if anyone wanted to visit us, it'd be such a major headache. It'd be a horrible experience. I would dread it. And I like having people visit. I like being the host. So I don't want that to be like a major source of anxiety. Or we didn't want people to come visit us and have to justify it being like, oh, I know this is $775,000, but it's in a good area idea. This is just for now. We didn't want to have to qualify it with a bunch of, no, this was actually a good decision. We want to choose a place that we can stand on and be pleased in. And one of my non-negotiables that my husband locked into pretty quick was, I am not going to have a washer dryer in the farthest corner of the garage from the rest of the rooms, especially if it's a 3-story layout. You're telling me I'm going to have to walk up 2 flights of stairs every time I want to wash clothes? Washing clothes is inconvenient enough.
It was up on the top floor? It was on the top?
That's where the bedrooms are. The garage is on the bottom floor.
I see.
Unacceptable.
I thought they were putting it on the top floor. And you
I wish. That's where all the bedrooms are.
That's fair.
So, like, I simply won't be doing that.
No.
It's one of those details where you have to look for it in older places because they weren't built to have washer dryers in them. The only place they can add them is in the garage. But yeah, that was one of those things where I went, no, I'll be putting my foot down on this, because if I'm busting my butt every single month to afford a house, I want to smile when I come home. I want to sit in my office in my home and smile on a Sunday morning. I want to enjoy where I'm living. I don't want to have to tell myself, this is just for now. You know, the equity of this home is really going to go into our next home. That's going to be our dream home. Like, I don't need this to be my forever and always home.
Yeah.
I just need it to be a reasonable place to live for the next 5 to 10 years. You know, I want it to be useful and nice to an extent, you guys. So yeah, that's what we learned.
No, I felt that very, very, very much, that I did not want to move in somewhere that I was just going to have to immediately move out of. I think that's why I felt so much relief when I didn't get that 2-bedroom, because I couldn't tour it. They wouldn't let me tour it until I got approved. So I just was so stressed about it. And I wasn't applying for the apartment. I was getting approved by the county for the low-income stuff. So at no point did I wasn't waiting for approval to move in. But I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know if there were bugs. And you can always tell. You can always tell when a place has bugs, because
you can smell it.
You can smell it, and you can also tell by the way they answer the question, because I've had really good tours and really bad tours before. And the place I live is really great. And I always go in and I ask the question the same way. I say, so what do you guys do about bugs? Because everyone's got bugs. It's California. But what do you do about them when they show up? And if someone gets cagey, if someone starts not answering the question, I'm like, so you have bugs? Because there were a few tours where I asked that question, and they were like, we're pretty good. Most of it's on you to maintain your space. But you might get spiders. And I was like, so there are cockroaches everywhere. Is what because the nicest places will still get bugs. It's hot out. We live in California. You have to keep an eye out for them, because once it starts getting hot, you're gonna get flies, you're gonna get bugs. They're just gonna it's gonna happen. I want to know though, if there are bugs, I can let you know, and within a day, 2 days maximum, you're gonna be in my home getting rid of them for me. That's my thing. And so when I ask somebody that question, and they're like, oh, yep, we exterminated right before you got here. Typically, we're pretty good about that. There's not really an issue, but if you let me know before every Monday, we can come in and get rid of them for you if there's ever a problem. And I'm like, that's the answer. That's the answer right there.
Here's the thing. Me, your girl, myself, and I, I've lived in 2 roach-infested apartments. You think I would have learned from the first experience what to look out for and what to not do? Wrong. Took me twice. Took me 2 horrible experiences of living in truly horrifically roach-infested apartments to finally be like, I will never, ever be doing this again. First instance, we didn't even know to ask about roaches. I don't know. It just never crossed our minds to ask about the bug situation, because we were fresh out of, the freshman dorms at university. We were exhausted from looking at places. And frankly, my friend was going to drop out of the search if this wasn't it. So I was really hyping it up. I was like, it's going to be amazing.
I think the only reason I knew to ask was because of your experience, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, because I was so hateful about it. And so we moved in, and it was so diabolical that we hated being in that apartment. We spent the night at her parents' house so often, and we spent so much time together and out doing other things because we didn't want to be where we lived. It was disgusting. A roach fell on my pillow, and a roach was crawling on her toothbrush. That's how horrifically infested it was. We didn't keep any food in the apartment. There were dead roaches in our lamp on the ceiling of our kitchen. And here's the thing, they were so quick to bug bomb our place. They bug bombed our apartment 3 times. And you know why it didn't get rid of the bugs? It's because they only bug bombed us. So the surrounding apartments would just get an influx of roaches whenever they bug bombed our specific unit. They would have needed to bug bomb the entire like row of connected apartments in order to actually run them off. But even then, it's like kind of hard to actually do. They were so quick with it. They were so on top of it with the bug bombing. And that was a question we asked them to be like, do you have any bugs? And any complex after that like tiptoed around that question at all, if they even alluded, honestly, if their answer wasn't like, oh, we don't get bugs here, you might get a house spider or two, that's fine with me. But if they say like, we're right on top of it, I'm like, I don't care. You have bugs and there's no way to actually get rid of those. So I'm out of here. Now the second situation, I rushed into that. I forget why. Oh, I think it's because that same roommate was like, oh, I'm moving. Yes. And I really procrastinated finding a new spot. So I was kind of tight on time and I wanted to save money. And it was a whole thing of cutting corners and I ended up in another roach infested place. Did I ask good questions? No, you guys, I didn't ask good questions. Of course I didn't ask good questions. I wasn't interested in that situation. So I was in and out of there in like a month. So it was fine. But yeah, to get out of the first lease, my mom and my friend's dad had to like threaten to sue for it was like inhabitable
crazy
environments or whatever. Yeah, and we had to like take pictures of all the roaches that we saw and it was crazy. But yeah, so anywhere that's like, well, we're so good about it, I'm like, I'm afraid
that's
I'm
valid
leaving.
That's valid.
Like,
we've had really good experiences with getting rid of them quick. Like, again, depending on where you're staying, especially in
ours
Hollywood,
was horribly infested though.
Yes.
Ours was like top to toe. You couldn't go
Different.
10 minutes without seeing a roach. Like it was so horrifically infested, both of them, that nothing they were going to do mattered. Like, we were keeping a running tally on how many roaches we saw. We had a fly swatter on every single wall. It was messed up how horrible it was. I can't even believe that we stayed there. I think we were in the first apartment for maybe 3 months. Oh, it was horrible. Anyways, I digress.
Making my skin crawl. Like, tell me why when you were talking about that it made me want to like cry. Horrifying.
When we moved into a new apartment that was not roach infested, we kept thinking we saw something in the corner of our eyes because we were so traumatized.
We were traumatized.
It was bad.
It does make me think about all of the reviews I've been seeing because there was that same place that I was talking about just now that kind of skated around the roach question, also skated around the question when I asked if it was a safe area. Because this place is weird.
No.
There are no reviews for this place whatsoever. I cannot find them. I've looked. I've sleuthed. I've sicked my best sleuthers on it. There are no reviews on this place, which I think is really, really, really fishy. That and the fact that the security deposit is the same amount as the rent means they have a high turnover rate. And when I asked if it was a safe area, the landlord was like, it's like, you know, there's of course drama in some spots.
No.
And like, but like we're in like a quiet pocket. And I was like, why don't you have reviews? Some reviews are really funny though for another place. I literally showed up for the tour and they wouldn't let me in. There was no one answering the phones. The phone line was busy and the gate buzzer didn't work. So that's just the universe being like, that's not where you're supposed to be. Their reviews were so funny because they were like, they had a 2.7 out of 5, which ultimately, you know, apartments are going to have bad reviews. Typically, that's just kind of how it goes. All caps, every single one. This place is infested with roaches. I was like,
run, save yourself, get out while you can.
Some of them would be like that. The reviews are really funny, and I love people for doing it because it's the only way you could really know if a place is habitable. Another one that I thought was really funny on a different apartment complex said, I have had the unfortunate displeasure of living here for a year, and it has never been a happier moment in my life than the day I got to move out. You're like, let me do you a favor and save you the time. Run. And I was like, oh my God. One of them
At that point, you need to just destroy the complex and build again.
That's
at that point, it's unsalvageable. Like the place that I moved in Arizona, that was beautiful and the best place on earth. That was one of those things where they knocked down the original one and rebuilt it, rehired staff and everything like that. And that's why I got it for such a beautiful, beautiful price of $1,300. That's
so
because
cheap.
Its reputation was so trashed that even though they rebranded and rebuilt, like they needed some type of incentive to bring people in because it had such a horrible reputation and just an unsalvageable environment.
Yeah.
So,
But then on that same day, when I was touring all of the horrible, horrible, horrible places, I pulled up onto this street. And the street was like a fine street. It was kind of cute, but it was like, it didn't feel unsafe, but it was kind of all right. And then we punched in the code, and it was a really high-tech like security system and punch-in system. We opened the gates, and it was like, ah, and it was beautiful. There were trees everywhere. There were squirrels running around. There were 3 laundry facilities. It was amazing. And I figure talking about something that we're excited about can lead us right into Q4, because we have both had places that we're really excited about recently. And I think just like, even if I don't get the place that I'm currently really, really excited about, I still woke up this morning imagining myself waking up in an apartment by myself with lots of light and all of the beautiful things that I want. And I was just so proud of myself and so happy sitting in that feeling and knowing I made this big, scary decision. There were a lot of cons, but I trusted my gut and I trusted myself and my confidence and who I was as a person to be able to accomplish this. And I'm going to. And it was just like such a fun way to feel, honestly.
you know, this is such a fun time to be talking about getting excited because you and I have actually not been approved for anything that we want yet. Like
Nothing.
And it's scary. It's
Super
actually
scary.
scary to be talking about it.
I agree.
But I'm currently in the underwriting process, which needs to happen before, making offers on houses.
Yes.
You've submitted your
application.
application for the place that you want, but neither of us knows
We're not gonna
anything
know until
definitive yet.
probably the day before the episode.
We're in a really time-sensitive position right now, which, you know what, honestly, I'm looking forward to our next side note because that's when we're going to have updates on this situation.
I'm
Hopefully.
scared.
I know. But we are allowing ourselves to get excited and to get back into that headspace of the dream, of
Yes.
like looking forward to things and lightly planning. I think a really good indicator for us was that when we decided like, oh my gosh, we're going to move into this brand new place, I feel like some of what like false hype can come with that is when I buy a new house, I'm going to buy all new furniture, I'm going to do all this new stuff. Listen, I am arguably not financially prepared in this moment to buy a home. I can make it happen, and I believe in myself because I believe in the strength of my wings, not the strength of the branch that I'm standing on, as a bird. It's a whole thing. But anyways, I'm not financially prepared to buy a home and furnish that home and just like live my bougiest life. I'm buying this home. I'm scraping by the skin of my teeth. Okay? I'm doing everything in my power to pull together the dollars and pennies needed to buy a home, close on the home. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is a tight race.
It's
okay?
scary. I feel the
It's
same way.
scary.
Even talking about this, like the pit in my stomach is less severe than it's been, luckily, but like the pit in my stomach has been tightening around the budget in my head that's trying to focus on how hard I'm going to have to focus to make sure I can afford my monthly rent.
I was shopping for planners today and I was like, nope, I won't buy a planner until I'm solidly in a home and my mortgage has been paid for the first time. Like, I'm not doing it.
We were literally just both talking about the fact that we're like, oh, when I have money, I'll buy this
Yeah.
small fun thing because I am saving for a home.
We are both so broke because our money is promised to really big things right now.
Yeah,
But
exciting thing.
I think a really strong positive indicator is that when I thought of, oh my gosh, we're going to move into more space, we're going to have a house, I went, oh, I'll get to buy a boogie board.
Oh, yeah.
I was so excited. I was like, I could buy a boogie board and we'll have a garage to put it in. I'm so excited. Like, I have nothing else planned to buy.
Yes.
I was like, all the furniture we have right now is what we need to survive. We're proving
Yes.
that by surviving with it right now. We will slowly accumulate things in this home. I'm sure I really want to be intentional with it because you and I, Emma and I, both have tendencies to be little pack rats. Little
like
pack rats that fill every little space, every little cupboard, every little basket. You give us a container, that container will be filled with random stuff. But I'm really trying to pull back on that,
Yeah, it's hard.
But anyways, I think that's a great indicator that we're both like being very intentional right now. We're like, this is the goal, this is what I want, and I do not expect this specific thing to immediately change my life. I don't expect to be an immediately different person with an immediate different lifestyle. Like, we're really taking it one step at a time, methodically, intentionally.
Yes. A really good indicator. I love that as an indicator because I too feel very similarly. And oh my gosh, this is not the indicator I was about to talk about, but I'll hopefully find. The other indicator I want to talk about is the you're a badass indicator. So if I forget, just say you're a badass and I'll remember.
Okay.
The other indicator for me is I famously cannot keep my room clean. That was the main reason I was even considering a 1-bedroom apartment. So you think the budgeting was hard? Having a studio apartment? I've learned that I like to create a barrier so no one enters my room. So it's not like a hangout space. So I'm wondering if a little bit of that will alleviate when I have my own space. I still think it's a lifelong habit that I'm going to have to work through. But even the fact that I'm willing to try, and I'm not devastated that I'll have to tidy often, I feel like is a really good indicator that I am ready and actually excited to have my own place. And then the other thing that I think, oh wait, you have a thought on that note specifically. Go for it.
The thing I'm trying to implement right now on that note, because we're both messy in different ways. We travel together. Our stuff's just all over the place. We're like, do you see this thing? Have you seen it? I lost it. It's just absolute chaos. Unrelenting, unforgiving piles of bullshit. And they're all in our suitcase. You know what I mean? It's like a giant pile in our suitcase.
It's just messy.
It's not dirty.
Yeah,
it's just so disorganized. I've been trying and failing to implement the don't put it down, put it away methodology, which is for ADHD brains. It's like, don't put it down, put it away. It's hard. I'm failing, but I'm trying. So.
Okay. And just being aware of it is very good. That's something I will try and keep. That's a good earworm for my brain. But the other thing that I think is a really good indicator for me, because I think that's a perfect indicator for you, because you were saying you lean more into the impulsivity of it all. And so that the fact that you're not wanting to buy a bunch of stuff is really a fantastic litmus test for a decision you're excited about. You're not excited because you get to buy new things. You're just excited about the thing.
Yeah.
And for me, since I lean into the timidness of it all, what I think is an amazing way to tell that I'm actually excited about this is that I'm genuinely okay right now if other people question my decision, which is hard for me, really hard for me. If someone pushes back, I get really maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Except for in a professional setting. That's the only time I'm not. But in life decisions, I got really scared when I first started thinking of this, because I remember I made the decision and my dad was being so sweet and so protective, but he was like, Emma, how much more money a year is that? What's 1,500 times 12? And I was like, don't make me do that. No, that's so mean. Don't put that number in my head. Don't you do that. No, oh, she's doing it. It's okay. I did the math a while ago. I don't remember what it is though. But usually
it's not that much.
That's a crazy thing to say, but that's all right.
$18,000.
That's
easy cakewalk.
An extra $18,000 a year. Sorry.
Easy cakewalk.
I
You'll
agree.
be making 5 times that much in the next month.
I'm going to be making a lot. You're correct. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm so proud of, and it's those little micro habits that I've been trying to make a part of myself recently, is having my own back and getting bored of inaction and feeling confident in my decisions and being okay being wrong. I think that's the biggest thing. Is recently I felt a lot more okay being wrong. And I can always tell when I really, really, really want something, because I'm okay being wrong in those moments. And in this situation, I think it's a combination of those habits, of that growth, and of knowing that this is the right move for me. And I keep saying to people that even if it ends up being something I don't want in the long run, I'm going to be so grateful I got to have this experience. I'm going to learn so much from it. And I think that's an excellent indicator that I'm and I think I'm almost more excited. No, I'm really excited about having my own place, but I'm very close to equally excited about the fact that I feel confident enough to be excited about the idea of branching out on my own.
Yes. It's like we have this feeling that we are going to end up where we are meant to be. Yes. And again, I'm kind of tiptoeing just because pivotal things are in motion, right? Like we don't know anything definitive right now. So we are being optimistic despite not actually knowing the fate of our situation.
Well, we're going to end up where we're supposed to be ultimately. We don't know where that place is, but
I mean, my fear is that they come back for me after doing the underwriting process and applying that whole thing, and they're like, you didn't know this, but, you know, all this stuff is fishy with you and you don't qualify. Like, I'm so scared because when you have your own business, like I have an LLC right now, that's where my side income comes from. I'm worried that what I've sent them is not what they're looking for, and it's not going to be like proof enough of I'm worried about that. I'm so... And
I
they
feel
asked
the
me for
same way.
files. They're like, can you send me a K1 022 210 1022 1099 40, like all these terms. I'm like, what is that? What is that? A partip redact? What Rabberdiv scabbard? What's happening? And so I'm like, I'm so nervous.
People keep saying, why wouldn't they approve you to me? And I'm like, I don't know. There's something maybe. Life is crazy.
That's exactly how I feel. Exactly how I feel. But despite all of that, we are being optimistic. Cut to our next episode. We're like, sometimes things don't go your way.
Don't
and that's
say
okay.
that.
See, but by saying it, I feel like I've already acknowledged it. No, and then it'll be funny if that happens.
I'm in a bubble shield of light and love and joy. No.
Not us getting cagey. But I've already put together like a housewarming list for you of like, oh, what
for me
would be good for Emma's first apartment? What did I like when I got my first single bedroom apartment living alone? Like what made me feel comfortable? Aww. And so it's like, it's just so exciting.
And I'm so excited for your like housewarming. I know, again, the universe, but I'm thinking vaguely when I'm saying these things to give you some peace of mind. I'm not thinking of any place specific for my apartment or for your home. But when you have your housewarming at your house, like what little things made you feel confident in taking this leap? Because this is one of the biggest like life leaps you can make.
Oh, I think that, you know, as someone who used to have a chronic spending problem, never enough to like put me in any kind of hole, but enough for me to be like, I ain't making any progress on any of my financial goals because I just spend exactly how much I can spend without ruining my life. I think that just the years of understanding my money more and really like being consistent with it and finding ways to help myself be more consistent with it, partially crew finance as well, because when my husband and I combined finances, I was thinking, how the heck are we going to do this? Because we have such different budgeting styles, like couldn't be more different, frankly. And over this past month, we've really locked in with the budget, and I noticed myself not giving into big purchases that I can justify but aren't quite feeding into my overall goals. And also it kind of helps that anytime I spend money on my card, he will get a notification and I will be ratted out. Of course, we have our own personal spending money and like nobody cares what the other person spends that on. But I can't hide money from myself anymore. I can't like move money around and rationalize it because that's his savings too.
That's
like,
true.
I can't rip myself off. Like I once
you're
was
ripping
able
him
to.
off. Oh no, that's so much more
off. I know. It's like financial abuse if I do that. I can't be like that.
That's horrible.
It is. Is it not spending your partner's savings without their consent?
No, that's definitely
behavior.
not okay. Not an okay thing to do.
So,
yeah.
So it's just like all of that and pulling back on the random stuff that I'm buying, being more intentional with my purchases and figuring out more what I like in my day-to-day. Like knowing that going to the beach once a week is so beneficial for me. Going to the park is so beneficial to me, and being able to identify those things and understand what really goes into making my day-to-day enjoyable. I don't feel like I'm grasping at straws trying to figure out what I like.
Yes.
I feel like I have a better sense of what actually brings me value, I should say. Like, what can I do in my day-to-day that offers me value? And, yeah, I don't know. I just feel way more strong in my
such a good point.
decision.
Such a good point, and I'd say it on both of our fronts. I had not thought about this. I don't think we could have started on this adventure, this endeavor, taking the leap, if we hadn't known ourselves so well. I think we have done a really good job getting confident in what we like and taking the time to slow down. Because I think you've always known who you were largely and known a lot about what you like. But even in this last year, these last few months, you've slowed down so much and like really evaluated and reflected on what improves your quality of life. And for me, I've had this time of like going into myself and seeing what things bring me joy. And I don't think we could have felt so confident in finding places that we actually would really love to live if we hadn't taken that time with ourselves.
Thank goodness. And I think we have been both focusing on the contentment quotient of just like, instead of chasing happiness, instead of chasing highs,
Yes.
what makes us feel content and at peace in our day-to-day, like you with being able to go outside and like be interactive with nature and just like have these grounding, the access to grounding things that you can do. Me too. We've really been focusing on grounding in our day-to-day. And again, when I have that image of me like in my home office, just like in my own space, which I've always had my own space, but like in my own house, it's perfect to me. And it's not even because like, oh, and I have all these beautiful things in my house and I have this massive yard and I can do all these things. Like, I feel like it's a perfectly reasonable want to have. I feel like it's very attainable, and it's not being like, and I'm going to be happy every single day. It's like, I can wake up and just have a day in my little community.
Is that the thing you think you're most excited for? Is like that image of you in your home office, in your home? That's the thing?
Yes, I think so.
I think my thing that I keep envisioning is either waking up to or walking into a room full of all of my plants and just knowing that it is my space that I have like spread out into and I can just exist in that space.
Yes, and there's no like someone's gonna come in randomly or like knock on my door randomly. There's no like having to shift gears.
Yes. And it's all my decorations. It gets to be like my art, and it's going to be greens and pretty. And I'm excited to make a greenhouse with all of my plants and just to walk in and get to see them all.
It's an underrated feeling to have like full creative control of what the environment looks like. Like, even my husband, luckily he doesn't have any opinions unless I ask him. Like, he doesn't think about pillows. He doesn't think about any of that just by default. If I go, what do you think about this? He'll go, let me consider. Like, he'll go, all right, let me think about it. But he doesn't enter with an opinion, really. Except for layout of of houses. You know, the classic things we talk about. But he don't care. He doesn't care what we put on our walls.
You know what sucks about this chat? So I want answers. I want to know right now about the things that we're waiting for, and we're not going to know until pretty much the listeners know. So this, while it's been a great chat, made me too excited.
Maybe too excited. We'll have answers by, let's say the end of next week, by the time we record our side note.
So it's either going to be a really happy side note or a really sad side note.
I know.
You guys will know that it went poorly if the side note has nothing to do with housing. The side note's gonna be
Maybe we'll have a solo side note.
It'll be like amusement parks.
We'll release it on Instagram stories, the update, just a black screen, like an apology, but an update on the housing situation.
An apology.
You know what, with that, I think that we're ready for our shapeless plugs.
Yes. You can find me on Instagram at I am Emma Bruno 2. That's TOO. And you can find me on TikTok at I am Emma Bruno.
You can find me on Instagram at r.sowden.money. And you can find me on TikTok and YouTube at rebecca.sowden. And you can find me on Substack. I have a little page called The Life Ledger.
You can find this podcast on Instagram at Life in Quarters Pod.
And you can listen to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. For example, where are you listening to it right now or watching it? Shout out YouTube. Bye.